All right, looks like our numbers are holding steady. Everyone is on the line here with us today, so we will get started. Just wanted to say hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea McCormick. I am the associate for the Center for Best Practices here at No Kid Hungry. I want to welcome you all to our Making After School Meals work in the 2021-2022 school year. We have some great panelists and a lovely presentation for you all today. Before we get started, though, just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items. So this webinar is being recorded, and the recording and the slide deck will be sent out to all participants in an email later this week. It'll also be posted on our website for anybody to be able to access. We are going to have an audience Q&A at the end of our presentation today. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box that you'll see on your screen. Please don't put questions into the chat box. Sometimes those get lost mid-presentation, and we want to make sure we get to all of your questions today. You'll also see that closed captioning is available for this webinar. So if you would like to use English closed captioning, you'll see a little globe or a at the bottom of your screen, and you can click on that to get English closed captioning. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Paige, who will be leading us through today's webinar.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paige Picorni. I'm a program manager here at the No Kid Hungry campaign. We're so excited that you tuned in today's conversation on after school meals in the 2021-2022 school year. So I'm just going to do a brief overview of today's agenda. To get us started, let's see who we have on the line. Please take a moment to put in the chat box where in the world you're logging in from and who you represent, whether that be yourself or a school, community sponsor. We'd love to hear who we have. So today we are going to hear from two after-school meal experts. So you're in for a treat. First, we have Amanda Schmitz, who is the Social and Responsibility and Community Outreach Director at the Monroe Family YMCA in Michigan. And we'll also hear from Julie Fletcher, who's the Director of Support Services at Dallas Independent School District in Texas. But before we get to that, you do have to listen to me a little bit longer. I will be doing some level setting on the CACFP at-risk program, often called the After School Meals program, and also go through some of the available waivers and flexibilities for this coming school year. And then finally, we'll have ample time for Q&A. So as Chelsea said, please don't hesitate to put all of your burning questions into the Q&A box. All right, next slide. CACFP at Risk, often called the After School Meals Program, provides reimbursement for nutritious meals and snacks served after the school day, on weekends and school breaks, and during school closures throughout the school year. Unlike school breakfast and lunch, after-school meals can be provided by both schools and nonprofit community-based sponsors like YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, churches, and after-school care programs. Up to one meal and snack can be served free of charge to any child 18 and younger at an eligible site. Programs have the choice to provide meals only to enrolled children or be open to all children in the community. Open programs must provide an activity that is available to everyone who receives a meal. However, children do not have to participate in the activity to receive the meal. Next slide. One of the great things about after-school meals is that all meals and snacks are served are reimbursed at the free rate, which is $1.97 for breakfast, $3.66 for lunch or supper, and $1 for snack. It's important to note that the lunch supper reimbursement can be increased to $3.92 when 26 cents for cash in lieu of USDA commodity foods is included. And for the vast majority of sponsors, their reimbursements include this cash in lieu amount, boosting the reimbursement to $3.92. Meals and snacks must be paired with a nurture component. However, children are not required to participate, as I mentioned. For example, a school can provide an open after-school tutoring for students and provide meals to the whole school. That could look like a point of service in the cafeteria or kiosk in a central location, or meal delivery to various activities throughout the school. While athletic programs do not qualify as an enrichment activity, athletes can participate in after-school meals if an overarching activity like tutoring is offered. During the 2021-22 school year, virtual and take-home activities can meet the enrichment activity requirement. This is outlined in USDA's most recently released Q&A. And the links of all of these on the slides will be live when we send out the slides. One last thing to note, while we are focusing on CACFP at risk, after-school snacks can also be served through NSLP snacks. This option is only available to school food authorities. Next slide. On to the waivers. So thanks to nationwide waivers, after-school meals are more available to schools and communities than ever. First, the area eligibility waiver eliminates the need for program sites to be located in an area where at least half of students are eligible for free or reduced priced meals. This waiver is available for the full school year without restriction based on the net level of need or operating status of the program. This means that all schools and community sites can run the program without proving they are located in an area of high need. This adds incredible flexibility to site location selection. So get creative. Think about where the children are in your community and what organizations you can partner with. Libraries, rec centers, and mobile pop-up sites are all great options to think about when tailoring the program to your students in your community. The next few waivers are available to the extent and duration needed. So you'll have to confirm their usage with your state agency. However, they will be available for consideration throughout the entire school year. These include the non-congregate meal service waiver, which allows for grab-and-go meals, the meal service time waiver, which allows for meals to be distributed outside of program hours, which is often used in the case of programs offering virtual or take-home activities, and also multi-day meal packs. The parent guardian meal pickup waiver allows for caregivers to pick up meals on behalf of their child. And the limited meal pattern flexibility waiver can be used in cases where you're not able to meet the requirements for whole grain rich items, crediting grains with ounce equivalents, or serving unflavored low-fat milk. As always, check with your state agency before making any adjustments to your program to ensure compliance and reimbursement. Next slide. So these waivers are a little bit different. So the last two nationwide waivers end the 30 days after the end of the public health emergency. So they're not tied to the school year. So, and the public health emergency refers to the federal public health emergency. And so we are unable to say exactly when this will be. However, the current public health emergency was recently renewed for 90 days on July 19th, 2021. The two waivers under this timeline are on-site monitoring for CACFP sponsors and CACFP state agencies. This allows for remote monitoring and audits in the CACFP program. Programs can choose to do some, all, or none of the monitoring elements remotely. So check with your state agency on current monitoring guidelines in your state. Next slide. So a few more flexibilities. These are not formal waivers, but they are outlined in the most recent USDA guidance for program operation this coming year. These include the enrichment component and attendance tracking flexibilities. As mentioned previously, virtual and take-home activities are totally allowed to facilitate non-congregate grab-and-go meal service. This can be a link to a virtual programming or a handout. So just check with your state agency to see what they consider to fulfill this enrichment component. And then upon the state agency approval, programs can also track attendance of children participating virtually in the enrichment activity through documentation of meal pickup or delivery. This potentially means the tally of meals served could also serve as the attendance record. Next slide. So before I hand things off, I'd like to just quickly run through the program options for both schools and community-based organizations. Schools have two options for serving breakfast and lunch. They can use the school breakfast program and the National School Lunch Program, but these programs can be operated on school days. Alternatively, schools can use Seamless Summer option to serve breakfast and lunch. And SSO can be used on both school days and during unanticipated closures. This includes weather and pandemic-related closures on weekdays. SSO cannot be used on weekends or during scheduled school breaks, like winter break or Thanksgiving break. This coming year, SSO meals will be reimbursed at the higher summer food service rate, the rural self-prep rate. So Summer Food Service, also known as SFSP, SFSP will not be an option for schools in the 2021 school year. Schools also have two options for after-school meal service. They can serve snacks through NSLP after-school snacks on school days only. Alternatively, they can use CACFP at risk to serve suppers and snacks. CACFP at risk can also be used to serve any meal and snack on weekends, scheduled school breaks, and inclement weather closures. So you're not tied to the supper. So a breakfast or lunch can be served on these days. Next slide. For community-based sponsors this year, they can use CACFP at risk to serve meals and snacks. The Summer Food Service Program, SFSP, will not be an option for community-based sponsors. During weekdays, sponsors must serve after the school day ends. However, like schools, they can serve anytime on weekends, scheduled school breaks, and during closures. Nonprofit community-based sponsors cannot serve breakfast and lunch to virtual learners during the school day unless they are sponsors through the CACFP Child Care Center component. Unfortunately, this may require additional licensing and meals that can only be served to children 12 and younger. Additionally, reimbursement is based on free or reduced priced eligibility as determined through applications. So the best option here is often to partner with the local school district to procure meals for breakfast and lunch if you are serving virtual learners. For sponsors providing services to full day virtual learners, like I said, consider partnering with your local school district and you might be able to coordinate services there. Next slide, please. And last but not least, I want to say a huge thank you to all of the meal providers on the call today. The last year and a half has not been easy, and we appreciate all that you do to make sure children have the nutrition they need to learn and thrive. So with that, next slide, you'll hear from the real experts. First, I'll hand it off to Amanda Schmitz, the Social Responsibility and Community Outreach Director at the Monroe Family YMCA of Michigan. Feel free to take it away, Amanda.
Thanks so much, Paige. Appreciate it. If we can go ahead and advance to the next slide. Once again, Paige mentioned that I'm Amanda, and I'm with Monroe Family YMCA in Michigan, and I also serve as a food service delivery facilitator for YUSAs nationally, just to support this food work that's being done throughout the country. Next slide, please. So just wanted to give you a snapshot of my community and where I'm representing. So RY is a community sponsor. We're located in Michigan, and we're rural with a population of about 150,000. Our current food insecurity rate is a little less than 12%. And the programs that we participate in include the before and after school meal program through CACFP or SFSP, depending on season. We're also a vendor for our Head Start program that operates their own CACFP program, and then we participate in SFSP in the summer. We are a self-prep sponsor. We have a kitchen. We actually have a really innovative, we don't have kitchen space at our facility, so we actually rent our kitchen space from a local church, which has been a phenomenal partnership for a lot of reasons. We also partake in weekend feeding, have a priority to feed teens in our community, and do serve some adult meals outside of the, not reimbursed adult meals. Want to clarify that just to ensure that you understand, but we do support the family holistically. So we do, through some separate grant funding, provide adult meals. We were involved with the Farmers to Family program, and then we've been a recipient of the USDA Turn Up the Beat award 3 consecutive years, which recognizes high quality, culturally relevant meals. To give you a quick snapshot of our numbers, our service numbers pre-pandemic compared to our numbers in 2020 during the pandemic, you can see that the comparison of meals served has increased significantly, indicating the great need in our community, along with the number of meals youth served, and then the community sites with which we've partnered. Next slide, please. So one of ways that we were able to respond so quickly during the onset of COVID was to foster our community partnerships. We had stellar partnerships pre-COVID, which was really helpful for us to be able to provide meals with less than 24 hours after our state was shut down. So again, I mentioned that we partner with a local kitchen for some kitchen space. Monroe County Opportunity Center is our major food vendor. They're also our community action agency in our community, in our county. So, and every county has a community action agency. So if you're not currently partnering, definitely encourage you to reach out to just have a conversation about those partnership opportunities that might be available. Lazy Boy World headquarters is located in Monroe, and so they're the major sponsor of our program. They're incredibly supportive of our program, have been since inception. And then our Head Start program, as I mentioned. And then we operate, our operation during CACFP and SFSP includes school districts. We actually do sponsor one of our local school districts as the CACFP sponsor, which has been a phenomenal partnership too. We serve at mobile home communities, churches, the local community center, shelters, libraries, the municipality, and then at RY. And then I did want to just shout out to all of our sponsors as well, which are listed on this slide. Next slide, please. So our priority at the Y, and with most of us on the call, I would assume, is to ensure equitable access across our communities. And so right now, we are also sponsoring like-minded agencies because that just presents a great opportunity for everyone. We are, through the waiver, the on-site monitoring waivers, we are able to sponsor YMCAs that are just throughout the entire state. So Monroe is located at where southeast as low as you can go, and we actually sponsor at the very tip of the Upper Peninsula. We sponsor that Y right now through this waiver, and so because there's no travel required right now, so it's been pretty convenient. And I just really encourage consideration of who else you might be able to sponsor if you are a sponsor, because it supports the program sustainability for both agencies. And the bigger win is that it increases equitable food access throughout your entire state, which is the goal. So I've listed some strategies for how to be successful if you are considering sponsorship of other agencies and don't currently do so. Utilize technology for the meetings, trainings, and site reviews. I think we've all become experts at Zoom and other similar programs that can help in-person meetings that aren't really in person. I just encourage everyone to extend grace and patience. I can't stress that enough. I think during this time has been tough. We're tired as meal providers, I feel like, but just remember to extend grace and patience as a new program is launching. And then just make sure that you are setting clear and concise expectations for both agencies through a formal memorandum of understanding. We actually have a template that I would be happy to share if anyone is interested in reaching out for that. Next slide. And then just some tips to maximize the current flexibilities that we plan on doing at our organization. We are still able to utilize the non-congregate parent pickup and multiple meal waivers. So we will we'll be continuing that throughout the school year, or as long as we can. And it's been really supportive, that waiver has been supportive for our community, because a lot of our families are still hesitant to allow their children to participate in social activities. We've made the New York Times several times in our community, unfortunately, for being one of the top 5 in the country as far as COVID cases are concerned. And then the area eligibility waiver has allowed us to establish sites that may not otherwise qualify in previous years, because we unfortunately know that there might be pockets of poverty that are even in more affluent areas. Next slide. And to echo Paige, just want to thank each and every one of you for all of your work to ensure that kids have equitable access to healthy meals. In true Y fashion, always like to end presentations with a inspirational quote, and this one just really struck my heartstrings. Each one of us can make a difference. Together we can make a change, and I truly believe that everyone on this call, that's exactly what we're doing. So just want to once again take the opportunity to thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Sorry, Amanda. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Amanda. On to Julie next. Some incredible stuff happening in Michigan, and we can't wait. I have lots of burning questions, so remember, keep adding them into the Q&A, and we'll get to those. And now we're on to Julie Fletcher, the Director of Support Services at Dallas Independent School District. Take it away, Julie.
Great. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Chelsea, for holding this all together. Amanda, that was great information, and I'm going to borrow, excuse me, I'm going to borrow that quote. That's a wonderful quote, and I'm the quote queen in our district. So next slide, please. I am Julie Fletcher. I'm with the Dallas Independent School District. Next slide, please. Just a quick overview of Dallas. These numbers are before COVID hit. We are a community eligibility district, so 100% of our children eat at no cost to them or their families. We are the second largest district in Texas. Houston is a little bit bigger. And then we are, Dallas is a founding member of the National Urban School Food Alliance organization that now represents 15 or so of the largest urban school districts in the country. So we're proud to be part of that as well. But as you can see, we have as many students as Amanda has people. So I've been out in rural areas and I know the struggles there. So and now I'm here with an urban district, and we have some challenges too. So next slide, please. In this slide, I wanted to show you the number of after-school meals we were doing before the pandemic hit. And this slide shows you each month for the time frame and the number of schools out of our 220 or 40, it's a varying number, schools that were participating. And as you can see, we had great participation by the campuses, but the program was really for students that stayed after for tutoring or athletics or whatever. So we weren't reaching all of our students each month, but we were still reaching a lot of students, and especially students in need. So we were only offering supper at our campuses because we wanted to give a nice hearty meal before the students went home. And so this represents what we were doing before COVID. So next slide, please. So then the pandemic hits, and like everyone on this call and so many of us across the country, Dallas ISD had to pivot quickly within a week and turn around and change our entire meal service program. We identified 56 of our our schools that were most central to the majority of students, and we had our district mapping service help us with that. So they also had to be large enough to be able to put together thousands of meals. So we concentrated on our secondary schools. Of course, we used all the waivers, and we ended up providing a week's worth of meals curbside on Wednesdays in the evenings that covered breakfast, lunch, snack, and supper for every day we could during the year. As you know, the guidance changed periodically last year, so we went with the flow. So, but I want to say our staff, when we asked them over spring break last year to step up, we had over half of our campus staff agree to come in and help distribute food to our students and members in the community. And they're the real heroes. We just support them. One thing we did do is we found late last summer, we found a company here in Texas, actually in the Dallas area, that was able to help us utilize some of our bulk food and repackage it into individual servings. So that was something that really helped us provide some of the kids' favorites in a to-go container type of thing. So that was helpful. Next slide, please. But even with all that work, this slide shows some of last year. So August through February is pre-pandemic, and then you can see post-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, our normal month was 3 to 4 million meals a month. And then after the pandemic, it kind of went down a little bit, variety of reasons. But as you can see, in April, we started providing snacks. So that was a little bit different for us and did help a little bump of some snack meals there. So next slide, please. And then this is from this last July through this last June. And there again, you can see the meals count still goes up, but we are gaining more of the snacks and the suppers out to students that normally would not have had snack and supper, even if they'd been in school, because they wouldn't have stayed after school. So we're hoping that this helps us reach more students and parents that now know that supper is available at their campuses. So the next slide, please. So what are we planning for this year? We have a few district initiatives going on that we are tying into. And so this is the image here is one of our posters promoting supper in the district that will be up at the campuses. But one thing that the district is doing is an extended day option, an extended calendar. So Dallas had actually 3 different calendars for students to return. The first calendar is called Extended Year, and it started August 2nd, and it was only a handful of schools. And then we had 41 schools or so start this last Monday, yesterday, and those schools will go for a longer school day, and they will go for a longer term. So they will go through late June of next year with pretty much the regular breaks. They'll have some additional breaks where a Wednesday that not all the kids have to come to school, but just the kids that may need that extra tutoring will come for the full day and get an intensive day devoted to them. So we are working with the district to get all those campuses to provide the supper or snack before the end of the school day, because we can. There's an option with that where we can offer it because it's more hours and more minutes, and there's a whole calculation with that. Another thing that the district has been doing to improve the academics at their campuses is called a theory of autonomy. So principals have a full range of benefits that they can receive from the district to help improve the performance at their campuses. And once they start performing well, like it's graded A through F, A and B campuses can get fun things or additional teachers, or there's things that every department is contributing to help reward campuses that perform. And so one of the things that we're offering in the Theory of Autonomy program is to provide support at any school that's not performing well, because nutrition and cognizant education and growth all ties together. And then on the campuses that are performing well, we're doing fun things like a theme meal for the students and one lunch or something. So there again, we're tying back to the campuses, adding nutrition to the school day to improve student performance. And then we're also promoting supper for all campuses with a principals package that we have put together. So next slide, please. So some tips that we have for maximizing your flexibility is working with the district to identify any opportunities to provide supper. So the principals package I was just talking about includes an overview letter. It talks about ASM, after school meals, how to establish it. We have a quick facts about hunger in the Dallas community, some FAQs, some resources. We offer an example of the promotional flyers that we have in English and Spanish that we put up in the schools, and then details on how to complete an internal application we have for them to let us know they want a supper program. And like Amanda said, work closely with your state agency, make sure that you're, and Paige, you referenced this too, check with your state agencies on the waivers, make sure that they're applicable to your program and your sites. And then this one, procurement, has been a real challenge for everybody this last almost 2 years now. Flexibility on your bids and on your food items so that you can adapt to whatever may come up. So for example, we're coming back in person with our students this month, but if something changes, we're going back to our co-packer and packing some individual packages. So if a school closes and we have to do some curbside meal service at that campus, then we're ready. We have those things in inventory. And so making sure that you have the resources that you need through your procurement to be able to modify your meal service or change up or have options, that has been key this last year is the work we've done on our procurement. And that's where we have the co-packer, where they could take some of our bulk items and put them into individual serving containers for us. All right, next slide, please. There we go. That's a little bit about what Dallas ISD is doing for after-school meals.
Great. Thank you so much, Julie. That was fantastic. You're doing such incredible work. I am so excited to get to questions. So with that, remember, please use the Q&A box so that they're not your questions are not lost in the chat. And before we open it up for, as those start to roll in, I have a couple questions myself. So one thing that we hear a lot of questions about from folks is, how are you incorporating student feedback into your program? How are you doing that, and why do you think it's important? And when you do that, like, have you seen any differences in your program? So whoever wants to answer first, Amanda or Julie, feel free.
Yeah, I don't mind. I can take it. So, and I know that my answer will be a little bit different than Julie's, which is great. So because we are a community sponsor, we do actually serve a childcare program as part of the at-risk after school. And so what we've done, because youth voice to us is incredibly important, it's a balance, right, of having access to all of the foods that we need to distribute, and but making sure that the foods are served with dignity and are healthy and the kids want to eat them. And so we really prioritize youth voice and cultural relevancy in our meals. And so we've actually formulated a focus group with some of our kids in our enrolled programs to just provide feedback. We've actually done some menu planning activities, and we've really just tried to be innovative about it. And then we've also formed some focus groups with parents specific to the Head Start classrooms that we're serving to get their feedback as well.
And in Dallas, we had an extensive process through the year where we would do taste testings and end up with a food festival where we would have about 150 students come to a fun location and taste test the food for a final taste test. But since the pandemic, we've just been working on a modified version where we go to a campus and work with a classroom, or we'll be, if they have an event or something. But mostly it's been, since the pandemic, we're just reaching out to a classroom, a teacher, and saying, can we have your kids try this out for us this morning before you get started or something. And typically the teachers are like, yes, that's great, because it's one person coming in with samples, and then we collect their responses and we're done. So a little modification. We're hoping we can get back to more students participating in the future.
Great, thank you both. Amanda, do you have something else to add? Okay, I saw you on mute, so I wasn't sure. Fantastic. So if you could give one piece of advice to someone starting an after-school meals program, now that so many sites and schools are eligible, what would it be?
Well, again, I can go first. And so Paige asked this question yesterday, and I've really been thinking about it. And my first answer is going to be really basic, but if you have the opportunity to provide after-school meals, my advice would be to do it. My advice would be to either seek sponsorship through a partner to be able to provide meals, or to be in conversation with your state agency to figure out how you can become a sponsor. Either way, I think, and it's such a basic answer, but just make it happen. And if the opportunity is there, I just really think that we need to be mindful of equity and access to all of our kids.
Exactly, Amanda, I agree. And I was going to say mentor, but sponsor is the accurate term. But yes, if you decide to be a sponsor, find a mentor. And in Texas, in the Dallas area, the United Way has sponsored a committee. It's called the North Texas Summer and Supper Council. And we have representatives from food banks and community sponsors that have worked together to help smaller sponsors or people starting out, to help guide them through the system. And we meet regularly to provide them with updates, and they can ask questions. And so we're basically their big brother and big sister. We're helping helping them maneuver through the processes to be a successful sponsor.
Great, thank you both. Fantastic advice. Wonderful. So I will stop monopolizing all of the time and get to some audience questions. So please continue to put questions in the chat. The first one is for Amanda. When you partner with so many businesses in your area, do they supply food, money, volunteers? Are you the main community food distributor in your area? And do you partner with schools, food banks? That was a loaded question, but I think just distilled down partnerships, how do you do it?
Yeah, so I actually really love this question because the answer is yes, all of the above. So when we partner with businesses, we do receive some food donations. An example of that is at the beginning of the pandemic, Lazy Boy, who I mentioned earlier, they shut down all of their operations and they have their own cafeteria. And so they donated an incredible amount of food to us, and local restaurants as well continue to donate food. But most of our business partnerships do provide financial support. And we actually have a really unique partnership with one of our sponsors, our business sponsors, who not only provides financial support several times a year, but also provides volunteers through their workforce. And because it's a corporate partnership through their corporate volunteering program, we also receive $25 per volunteer hour. So beautiful partnership. So I encourage you to look at your corporate partners and how you might be able to utilize volunteers and receive some financial support through that. We are the main community food distributor for USDA reimbursable programs outside of the school. And we do partner with schools. As I mentioned, we do partner with the food bank, who happens to be our community action agency. And I think that answered all of the questions.
That was great. Thank you. So I can take this next one. Are sites able to operate non-congregate? The attendee has received some pushback from their state agency. So the waiver for non-congregate is allowable for the full year to the extent and duration needed. So how your state agency interprets this may differ state to state. That being said, the waiver is there. If you can prove that you need to operate non-congregate, you should be allowed. And, I encourage you to work with your state agency and continue to press, because this is allowed. And, we're also happy to partner if you have very specific questions as well. Okay. This one's for Julie. So specific to Texas, but Texas is a big state, and I'm sure lots of states right now are experiencing, changes in, in-person, out of school time learning. So are there challenges getting all students to come back in person learning in Texas? Do you expect missing students or challenges in that area? And how do you plan to respond to those challenges? What are your plans for meal delivery, grab and go, all of that?
Right. Well, the district, of course, is trying to recapture every student that they can. And that's mainly their thing. But we have done already since this last spring is worked with our health services, our nurses, the district nurses, and they will send us a list of any student that's homebound. And then we contact the parents and say, would you like a week's worth of meals while your student is homebound for whatever reason? I mean, mostly it's pandemic related, but it could be a broken leg or something, and they have to be at home. So we've started reaching out to those parents and delivering a week's worth of meals to them, or the parent comes to our central kitchen and picks up. And that's been working very well. So that's one way that we're addressing reaching more of the students. We are preparing for any, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. We are ready for any changes in meal service that might have to happen because of the pandemic and whatnot. So yeah, we're ready.
Great, thank you, Julie. Yeah, I feel like food service directors, both schools, non-community or in school, non-school sponsors, have worn the most hats in the world in terms of pivoting and trying to navigate the space the last year. So kudos to continuing that, at least for the next couple of months. Okay, the next one is a bit more about waivers, so I can answer this. So it's the understanding that sites serving congregate on school days are permitted to send home weekend bags and school day out bags with meals. So I think that's referring to, doing both a kind of a mix of congregate and non-congregate. That is allowable within the waivers. Again, I feel like don't mean to sound like a broken record, but check with your state agency. Sites should be able to serve, during the school day congregate, and then providing after or weekend bags. Just reiterating, weekend meal service is only available through CACFP at risk. So SFSP, unfortunately, not an option this coming school year. Amanda, Julie, also feel free to jump in on any of these. And then let's see, we have a question on the site location in terms of proximity to schools. There is a situation where there is a child care center across, a school-age child care center across from an elementary school. And can that child care center claim CACFP meals with it being so close to a school? Technically, yes. Check with your state agency. There have been issues with, in certain states, state agencies restricting that and putting priority to schools over non-school sponsors. That being said, if that school is not providing CACFP at risk meals, that is a great opportunity to partner with that school to push students to your site for CACFP at risk meals, suppers, and snacks. Okay. Well, feel free to keep on bringing in these questions. I'll give it a minute or two more. And Amanda, Julie, I will be asking for your final thoughts shortly if there are no other questions. So just flagging that. Okay, here is a question. Are we able to provide to the YMCA that is open on the holidays that we are not in school? So they are located in that elementary school. And I think that is a great example for, that partnership piece. So if I'm understanding the question correct, yes, the school can provide meals and sponsor while the YMCA is operating in their school. Amanda, Julie, feel free to jump in, especially if either of you have experienced this specifically. But succinctly, yes.
I think as Amanda said, that memorandum of understanding has to come in. You have to determine who is the sponsor, who's doing the claiming, how the meals will be served and all that. So that's that memorandum of understanding needs to be ironed out between the two entities.
Great flag. And yes, I will. We've had a lot of requests for that template for the MOU, Amanda. So I might be pinging you to include that in the after the notes for after the call.
Absolutely. Yes. Happy to share.
Amazing. Thank you. So this question I will address with a big caveat of we are not the USDA. We are not sure what's going to happen in the next couple of years, but there is a question about, additional waivers that might be coming out shortly. We're not sure of anything right now. That being said, anything can change at a moment's notice. And I think this is a great plug to, have that FNS USDA webpage bookmarked, and also the No Kid Hungry campaign. If you are not already subscribed to the Center for Best Practices What's New newsletter, that's a great opportunity because we do put out alerts when big new waivers come. And I'll be sharing resources at the end of this with a tracker that has been tracking all of these new waivers as they come through. A question for Amanda. How will you do monitoring of your sites much further away without the waivers?
We'll travel. So I'm not a team of one. I should have mentioned that. Even though we're a small Y, we actually have a whole, we're blessed to have a food team here. And our youth outreach director actually does the majority of the direct oversight of CACFP and SFSP. And so her job description will be tweaked a little bit to be able to accommodate these sites so that we can continue to sponsor them. But with that, I would encourage everyone to advocate for these waivers, including that one. I think that on-site monitoring waiver wasn't really in the forefront of our minds as being important, but I really do think that it's proven to expand food access.
I didn't pay Amanda to say that, I promise. But yes, advocate for the waivers and these flexibilities that make sense for your programs. It's important that people know how beneficial they have been and could be in the future in a non-pandemic time.
I would say for us, it's the non-congregate. As you can see, the increase in meals, especially supper meals, that we were able to provide to more students because we didn't have to make them stay after school to obtain a meal. So that's the one we're advocating for, one of many.
I didn't pay Julie either. Great. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions come into the chat. That being said, if anything does come up in the next few minutes or so, we will answer those after the call. I just want to give one last moment to Amanda and Julie if they have anything else they want to share with our attendees.
Yeah, so thanks again for taking the time to be on the call. Definitely appreciate it. I know that everybody is busy and really we're a community, right? So we're gleaning learnings from each other. I was described as an expert, but I don't feel like I'm any more of an expert than any of you on the call. So once again, just want to thank you for your time and thank you for your work. Paige, I'm not sure if it's possible to include contact information so that I can, if that can be shared out. I just want to give you permission, I guess, if anyone has any other questions that they think of. But thanks again for everything that you're doing to feed kids.
Amanda, that was great. And I echo that, your sentiments. I agree. I'm still learning every day. I'm learning from somebody else in the industry, somebody on our team. And that's something that we've really relied on, is our team coming up with solutions. And so, ask your team if they have a solution for something, or if they have an idea to improve the program or reach more students or whatever. That's really where it is the team to come together. And sometimes we just think that, oh, I'm just going to make this decision. Stop and broaden your perspectives and bring more people into the decision-making process and ask other people how they're doing it or ideas, because that really has been a way that we have been able to respond in a quick fashion to all the challenges that we've encountered this last 18 months or so, and still are, because we have to have that trust and that ability for people to speak up and say, hey, I think I've got an idea, and to be heard. So, but yes, we're all in this together, and between industry and our community partners and the community and our districts supporting us in what we do. And I'm sure Amanda's partners are, they're so supportive of what you do. People want to help us, and we need to just say we need help, and we want the help, and we want to reach as many children as possible, and we'll do that, and we'll continue to do that through whatever's coming next. So thank you, Paige, and Chelsea too, for doing all the back of the house stuff, and thank you to No Kid Hungry for sponsoring this webinar today. And again, Paige, you do have my permission too to share my information, contact information. So if anybody needs to or wants to reach out for more information, I'd be happy to help them.
Thank you so much, Julie. Chelsea, we can just zip through, I think, 2 more slides. Fantastic. So in addition to all of this wealth of knowledge that we just shoved into your brains, we have more things available for you on our website. So these are a list of some of our highlighted after school meal resources, and these links will be live when we send out the slides. So you can just click on these links. Next slide. And please do stay in touch. These resources all live on our website, so bestpractices.nokidhungry.org. And there's information not just on after school meals, but all of the child nutrition programs. And as I plugged earlier, sign up for our newsletter. You will hear about all of our upcoming webinars and events, in addition to some of our partners events and new resources as well. So you could do that on our website, so bestpractices.nokidhungry.org/subscribe. And thank you. Next slide. Thank you so much for joining us to learn more about after school meals. And we hope to keep this conversation going. So please don't hesitate to email me directly. We'll share out all of these resources after the webinar. And you can reach me at ppicorney@strength.org. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.